Take Back Your Health Now, episode 68.
You're listening to the Take Back Your Health Now podcast, the show that interviews the top doctors, athletes, trainers, and entrepreneurs to help you find the holy grail of health. Now here's your host, Dr. Dan Margolin.
Hi, this is Dr. Dan Margolin with another segment of Take Back Your Health Now, where we pull out all the stops in search of health's holy grail. We're extremely excited to have Dr. Dr Masley. He's a physician, nutritionist, trained chef, a celebrity speaker for programs on public television, plus a fellow with the American Heart Association, the American College of Nutrition, and the American Academy of Family Physicians. Over the past 15 years, he has won acclaim for helping thousands of patients lose weight, reverse type 2 diabetes, and eliminate the symptoms of cardiovascular disease. Currently, he's the president of the Masley Optimal Health Center and has a clinical appointment with the University of South Florida. He's also the author of the book Smart Fat, The 30-Day Heart Tune-Up, and 10 Years Younger. And I'm going to probably talk about this towards the end, but in January, I know you also, Doc, you have a new book coming out called The Better Brain Solution. Dr. Masley, welcome to the show, sir.
I'm delighted.
Well, we're excited to have you on board. So, Dr. Masley, do me a favor, take me back. Like, how did you've written so many books, it's all in this field of food and health, and, correct me if I'm wrong, you're also a trained chef. How did you get into all of this?
Well, I've had a very different perspective on health than like most of. I went to medical school. I had a different background. My dad was a vascular surgeon, and to see him as a kid, I would ride my bike to the hospital, go into surgery, and talk to him while he was doing surgery. Nowadays, that's totally illegal.
You couldn't do that. No way.
In the 1960s, if your dad was the head surgeon in the hospital, you could do whatever you wanted.
Wow.
And if he wasn't in surgery, he was in the intensive care unit. And I thought, honestly, the hospitals where they sent people to be tortured.
No kidding.
Worship my dad. Oh, your dad. I heard that hundreds of times. But
wow.
I saw what we did to people in hospitals. So as I grew up, and I knew how to put a stitch in someone's artery when I was a little kid. I could pick gravel out if they got in a car wreck. I could pull out their NG tube from their nose after surgery. I could do that before I could drive a car. But I wanted to be a doctor that kept people out of the hospital, and that's been my passion all along. So that's made me different than almost all of my colleagues.
Now, is it because you just saw that the way patients were being treated, or what was it about the situation?
I saw people being in the hospital all the time from a little kid's perspective.
Yes. Yep.
I didn't have any grandiosity about what surgeons can accomplish. I thought it was brutal, and it is. It is brutal. And I realized I've done lots of volunteer work. I've worked in 15 countries. I realized that the biggest thing that determines health is not the hospital, it's our lifestyle. And if we choose a healthier lifestyle with the foundation, you can prevent heart disease. You can prevent mental loss. You can be mentally sharper. You have better romantic function. You feel better. You get all these benefits if you make the right choices. And the hospital can never, ever provide the benefits that we do with what we choose every day.
Let me ask you, how did your dad, as you grew into this perspective, because it is somewhat different from a lot of the surgeons that I know and the medical doctors, how did your dad? What was his thoughts on your direction?
I think it was pretty tough on my dad. I mean,
really? He
probably would have been happier if I'd chosen to be a surgeon. I don't know. He never said that to me, but I'm guessing that. But now, I mean, I can sit back today and I've written all these books and I've done public television programs, and I know I've helped millions of people, something that he never thought was possible. So having benefited millions, I think now at this point, he can say, wow, I had no idea you could do so much.
Phenomenal. So, Dr. Masley, as a kid, you get this perspective, you become a doctor, and you want to help people. You want to actually treat them before it goes into a disease state, I would assume, right? You're trying to get them before they get sick, right? That's a little bit
You said it perfectly, Dr. Dan. That's exactly the point. You want to prevent it. You want to treat it before it becomes a disease.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think a lot of perspective is to treat people at the end stage when they've, the end stage is when they have the symptoms. You can have cancer for years and not know it, and then by the time the symptoms show up, it's towards the end of it. So, and that is a lot of the medical philosophy, and I'm drawn to more of your philosophy, which is, let's actually prevent these things. Let's go to the earlier part of this whole cycle. So, you realize that food and nutrition, when did you realize that was where the answer lied?
Well, in the 1990s, I started doing group visits. I was one of the first physicians in the country to see like 20 people at a time. And as I was doing this and giving them information, I was watching their response, and I was asking, it was a conversation with 20 people at a time. What tools do you need to get better? It wasn't information about grams of fat or carbs in food. It was about recipes. They needed recipes that were easy to make, that were delicious, that, someone could make and their family would eat them. They were good for their heart and soul. So delicious, practical, easy to make, find the ingredients at a grocery store. They basically said, if you can make those recipes, that's all we'll eat. And the truth was that changed their lives.
Wow.
So I went back as a doctor. I went back to chef school.
I'm blown away because it's such a brilliant perspective. You went to the public that you were going to service and you did something crazy. You asked them what they needed. That is just so brilliant, right? I mean, it's a real true survey. Well done, sir.
And what they said was recipes. So I chose to go back to chef school as a doctor.
Wow.
I had a little head start in that I cooked for like dinner parties in college and made money doing that. I would, cater events. I like to cook.
Oh, you did? Okay. So this was a natural inclination.
Do any formal stress. I actually went to the Four Seasons and spent a year working at the Four Seasons at night while I was a doctor during the day.
Are you serious?
I did like the evening shift for a year. And my family tolerated me doing that. That's what's pretty amazing.
That is a great family. That is a great family. So what did you learn? What did you learn working as a chef?
How to make food delicious that people will enjoy eating, but really fine-tuning and practicing to find, good ingredients that are easy to prepare. And how do you mix like herbs and oils together so they taste fantastic? And they lower inflammation and they improve your health. So they're good for your arteries and your heart and your brain all at the same time.
Wow. So let's, in that perspective, let's jump in and start to talk about, I guess, how do we eat foods that what foods make our heart healthier? How them, and where do we start with something like this?
Well, number one, if you really look at the data, the number one thing we need to do for your heart, and actually for weight loss and for blood sugar control, is to eat more fiber. And when I say fiber, I mean like the roughage in plant food. And we want to eat fiber that doesn't raise blood sugar. So it's a specific type of fiber that you get in vegetable, fruits, beans, not from like fiber from whole wheat bread that raises your blood sugar.
Okay. So you're staying away from the whole wheat breads.
I'm staying away from the gluten and any of the processed refined carbs. So it's really vegetable, fruit, beans, and nuts, not flour, even if it's whole grain flour, not potatoes, because they have a high sugar load that come with them. So it's low sugar load, low glycemic load, fiber sources was number one. And then with that, you actually have a huge benefit. The average American gets about 12 grams of fiber a day. That's a cup of broccoli is 3 grams, an apple is 3 grams. A handful of nuts is 3 grams. So average person gets 12 grams a day, and you want 30. That's like 10 servings of fiber a day. And it's not that much. That's like 5 cups of fruit and vegetables.
Okay.
1 or 2 handfuls of nuts, and a half cup of beans, and a piece of dark chocolate, and you're there. It's not that hard.
Now, let me just when you're saying nuts, are you including in that almonds, or you're just saying
Almonds, pecans, walnuts, pistachio, hazelnuts, macadamians. Those are my favorites. They all have proven benefit for your cholesterol profile, your blood sugar, your appetite, and even your waistline. Eating more nuts, even though they're high in calories, they're satisfying. So they help you lose weight.
Now, when you go with your different recipes and things, are some of these the salads where you put the nuts on top of them, or you mix them up? Like how does?
Exactly.
Oh, I got you. Okay, and dark chocolate, which piqued my interest. Talk to me about that.
Well, dark chocolate is a nice source of fiber and plant pigment as well. It makes your arteries dilate, and it's also a smart fat. So, in addition to fiber, we want smart fats, and there's some proven fats we want to eat more of that are smart because they have benefit for your heart and your brain.
Yeah, like you wrote a whole book on that. Tell us about it. Give us some of the smart fats.
Olive oil, dark chocolate, nuts, salmon, wild cold water fish, and then other nut oils like almond oil or macadamia nut oil. I already said olive oil. I mean, those are fantastic fats. They all have clear, proven benefit for our heart, brains, and health.
And how much, in terms of smart fat, how much of that do we need?
We would like 5 servings a day. Like a handful of nuts is a serving. So 1 or 2 handfuls of nuts, a tablespoon of olive oil, a piece of wild salmon or sardines for a snack. Nut oils when you're cooking with nut oils. All of those, avocado, California Hass avocado. Right. All of those are awesome sources of fat that are really good for us. And our brain is like mostly fat by weight. When we go ultra low fat, we're shrinking our brains. We don't want that. We want fat for our brain, but only smart fat, healthy fat. We don't want bad fats.
Are there? Do you speak about at some point neutral fats? Are there fats that are really bad for you, not so bad for you, and then the smart fats? Is there a little bit of a gradient scale of that?
That's a really good question. So there's, just mentioned, 5 a day. There's neutral fats like, organic butter and organic animal meats. The big surprise, I think, was when you look at studies that published in the last 5 years, the majority of the research shows that all that time we told people to avoid saturated fat, we missed the boat. The important thing was to cut out the refined carbs and the sugar. That's the number one cause for cardiovascular disease, heart attack, strokes, and memory loss.
Wow, this is different than what we were told in the 70s and 80s with the margarines and the
90s.
Right? And 90s too.
And it turned out the margarines, that's a really good point you're making. The margarines turned out to be the worst of all. We told people to give up butter and add margarine, and those are the most toxic fats on the planet. Trans-hydrogenated fats are the worst fats possibly ever for you.
What is a trans-hydrogenated? That term, and I never completely understood.
Okay, well, let's take an oil like avocado oil or olive oil, a healthy oil, or any kind of oil, and you heat it, and you put in like cadmium or copper, some catalyst, and then you pump in hydrogen, air, and you turn that liquid oil into plastic, stiff, hard fat. So the same way we turn petroleum oil into plastic for a plate is the way we turn a liquid oil into trans fat. You heat it, you pump in chemicals that are toxic, and then you add hydrogen gas, and that makes a stiff, hard fat. And when you eat that fat, it makes your tissues stiff, which is what probably increases the cancer risk. And then it stiffens your arteries, so it increases the heart attack risk, and it worsens your cholesterol profile, and it raises your blood sugar levels. It's like one of the most toxic, worst things we could eat would be trans-hydrogenated fat.
But then why buy into this? Because it wasn't just the layperson. I think the entire medical community at one point was actually recommending this. Am I correct?
It is. It was based on false research in the 1970s. People made up data to promote this. It's really, it's inconceivable now that you could get away with that kind of bad science. But in the 70s, it was prominent. And people like Procter & Gamble who were making these fats back then, now they're banned. Like Crisco doesn't have trans fat anymore. They took it out, but for years, It was there. It was toxic. And the American Heart Association told people to eat it based on fake data that we now know was not accurate.
Now, Dr. Masley, I'm going to ask you a question along those lines. What do we believe, or what do most people believe today that you would say is along those same lines? In other words, it's accepted as being healthy for you, but it really is. What would you say right now is going on that in 10 years we're going to look back and say, gosh darn, we should have known that?
Well, we're getting there. Is building, and there's still an ongoing fight about like low fat. No, almost there's really very limited data out there when you look at it that says you need to go on a low fat diet. You need to go on a smart fat diet. And then about carbs. So there's good fat and bad carb. And just the same way, there's good carbs and there's bad fats. Bad carbs. We shouldn't be on a low carb diet, and we shouldn't be on a low fat diet. Of smart fat and lots of smart carbs, those sources of fiber that have low sugar load. That's what we should eat more of. That's going to be, I think, obvious 10 years from now. And we're still doing studies to convert and tell people that's the case.
I mean, what happens? Some of these diets that are right, where you're really restricting the carbs, restricting the fats. What are the health? What are the concerns with that, and why it's so difficult for people to actually stay on these diets, because they actually are craving these other things?
Excellent point. Well, one, when you get more cravings to eat more sugar, it's a negative feedback loop. It's awful. Right. And two, when you cut out smart fats, you're more inflamed, so you're more achy, you feel worse, and it worsens blood sugar control. And if you worsen blood sugar control, it stimulates appetite. So when you cut out smart fats, you're more hungry, you stimulate the hunger hormone, and you increase inflammation compared to adding smart fats. So it's just a sad, and I have to admit, back in the 90s, I thought research we had at the time, it made sense to think a low-fat diet made sense. I mean, based on the research that was available and the studies that were available, it made sense. But now we know that's just not true.
Wow. You wrote the book 10 Years Younger. How does diet and the things that we're talking about relate to aging and youth?
Well, so back in the 1990s, I was actively teaching people who were diabetic or had heart disease to follow this active life. And I always invited the spouses to come to the classes. And many of these spouses were my patients. So I was looking at what happens when a healthy person follows a program that can reverse diabetes and heart disease. And what I realized when we measured aging is the average person following my program who didn't have diabetes and heart disease, within 10 weeks' time, they were 10 years younger.
Wow.
And we did a discovery show on that. Like 5 million people watched it. These people go in Miami, firefighters and other people were going through my program on television as we filmed them. And the average person went through that show for the 5 hours, 5 1-hour programs, was 10 years younger after 10 weeks. And then we did randomized clinical trials through the university and proved that, yes, an average person would be 10 years younger physiologically if they followed my program that was designed to reverse heart disease and diabetes.
Well, the biggest programs on PBS, was that like the largest program?
Well, we did the 30-day heart tune-up. I mean, I had the book and we converted it to 30 days to a younger heart. That was the number one show all time on public television. It raised like $12 million for public television.
Wow. Well done.
We had probably 5 million people watch that program on public television. And it made a tremendous, we had hundreds, thousands of emails, people saying, wow, I got your 30-day heart tune-up book, or I got 30 days to a younger heart PBS program, and it's transformed my life. I can't tell you how many grateful people really benefited from following it. I mean, it was amazing.
Wow.
It's probably the thing I'm most grateful for in life, that I actually did that and went on public television, because it had such a huge impact. I mean, how often do we get to benefit that many people? It's not very often.
No, it's exciting to look back and realize that all your hard work really is paid off for so many people.
Oh, it's just amazing.
Let me ask you, just in terms of now, so we're talking about dieting, we're talking about eating the proper foods. I know you talk about 4 food groups. Can you just go into that a little bit?
So fiber, low sugar, low fiber, vegetable, fruit, beans, and nuts, smart fats like olive oil, nuts, salmon, avocado, those things.
Right.
Dark chocolate. Now, protein, clean protein, not protein from a feedlot where they gave animals and pesticide-rich grain, things like that, but clean, grass-fed, pasture-raised, wild, or vegetarian protein as well, like beans or organic yogurt. So clean protein. Protein makes you full and satisfied and helps rev your metabolism. So more clean protein helps you eat less.
Now, what?
And
Like,
then fourth, yes, go ahead.
just along those lines. So, what if you're a vegan? Is that
You
a
can still
difficult
do
thing?
that. You can still eat beans and soy products, and you can. I did this. I wrote up a whole program, a 30-day program for people to do this if they were a vegetarian.
Wow, you really did the
Yeah,
research.
so I figured at least 4 servings of protein a day, and that's not hard to do.
Sure.
Now, if you're vegan, then we're cutting out eggs and, the like yogurt, but you can still do that. I mean, it's still very feasible to get 4 servings of clean protein. It's easier to get clean protein as a vegetarian than as a meat eater by no stretch. Just got to focus on getting it. So, and then plus beans are like your best source of fiber. So beans are an awesome source for vegetarians
What
for
type of
fiber and protein.
what type of beans?
Any of them, lentils, black beans, red beans, garbanzos, cannellini. I mean, they're all fantastic. But,
Okay,
if you
awesome.
actually look at beans and their ability to block oxidation, which is a major cause of aging, there's no food ever tested on the planet that's not as beans.
Really? I had
They're
no idea.
amazing antioxidant capacity, and a fantastic source of potassium and fiber. I mean, they're excellent. I mean, some people have digestive issues with them because they probably, the worst scenario is you eat like 2 cups of chili once a month and you have to sleep on the couch.
Understood.
Better is to eat like a, quarter cup every day so you get used to them.
Yeah, I understand. So, and you were saying, I cut you off. You were saying the other food group.
Well, was flavor from spices and herbs. I think we grossly underestimate how important it is to make our food taste delicious and the anti-inflammatory benefits of spices and herbs like garlic and ginger and Italian herbs and curry spices. They help our brain. They lower inflammation. They have so many benefits. And I don't think most people use, and if you don't use spice and herb, your food doesn't taste good. It's not satisfying. You
Boy, very interesting. How long did it take you as a chef to get good with the spices? Like, I wouldn't know almost like if I was cooking for somebody what spices, how much to put in. How long did it take you to actually become adept at that?
Well, years. I mean, but it's learning to use oils and spices together. Like Italian herbs, you can put in like with avocado oil when you start sauteing vegetables or animal protein in the beginning, but some other spices are really delicate and some oils are delicate, like extra virgin olive oil and garlic. They'll be damaged by heat, so you add them at the very end. So it's trying to figure out the order of when can I add which oils, which fats can I cook with, what do I add at the end for flavor and health benefit, and what herbs do I add in early so they, add flavor to the food, and which ones are really delicate. And so that you add them just at the end. So that's kind of the key to cooking, is not just what to use, but when you put it in and what kind of heat it will tolerate. And when you do it right, wow, the flavor just bursts in your mouth and it's fantastic for your health.
Very interesting. Dr. Masley, what would you say if I were to say, here's the ideal day, breakfast, lunch, dinner? Could you just describe that to me? If I came to your house and you were going to be cooking for me 3 meals, what would that be?
Well, I mean, like, what did I have today? Today I had a protein smoothie. I had whey protein with frozen cherries, almond milk, put it in a blender. It was delicious. And I actually put in a handful of like frozen spinach with it too. It was delicious. I made it in 2 minutes and I was out the door and off to the gym. And for lunch, I had an apple for a little snack, along with some soup, a soup of the week I'd made.
Mm-hmm.
I have a really flavorful Italian stew with some beans and veggies, and it was great. I really enjoyed it, and an apple to go with that. And I had some nuts for a snack. And then for dinner, usually it's protein, whether it's seafood or a vegetarian dish or like some protein, if it's poultry, it's going to be cage-free organic fed.
Okay.
And it's like baking like a chicken. So easy to rub olive oil and on, extra virgin olive oil and Italian herbs on a chicken and put it in the oven to bake for an hour. Takes you 3 minutes to get it in the oven. In an hour, it's ready, and I'll roast some beets to go with it or something. 45 minutes, and then maybe have a green salad with Italian dressing with it, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, sounds delicious.
Some sort of clean protein, some delicious herbs and spices. Yeah, it's great.
Are there any steaks that would be considered clean protein if you had like cows that were raised grass fed? Is that okay?
Please. Well, there you go. That's it, right? Grass fed. That's it, right?
Grass fed. Okay.
Yeah,
so that would
not
make a difference.
Raised in a feedlot where they injected it with 6 growth hormones per week to fatten them. Loaded them with Roundup and toxic pesticide-enriched grain. How does that make any sense?
Unbelievable. We've interviewed so many people on just the glyphosate in the wheat, things like that. It's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Doc, how about you mentioned working out. How important is working out for your heart, for your youth?
Oh, it's essential. I mean, we need to eat right food, meet our key nutrient needs, and we have to get fit. And I love measuring fitness tests. I do fitness tests on all my patients. I run them on a treadmill. We make them do push-ups and their flexibility. That's just, if you want to be 10 years younger, it's a combination of the right food and getting fit.
And how about the BMI for the patient? We're looking at their percentage. How important is that?
I like to look at body fat percent because BMI, you could be 40% fat and have a normal BMI. And how is that good? You don't have enough muscle on you. You're all flat.
Right,
You're skinny but flabby. We don't want that. We would like everyone to be shapely, have enough muscle mass to be shapely, sexy when they walk. That's really healthy to look sexy. And who doesn't want to look sexy anyway? I mean, it's a mixture of some aerobic and some, strength training twice a week and some aerobic most days. And as you get fitter, it's quicker because you can throw in interval training, burst training, and it's faster to do. But at first, you got to get fit. And as you get fitter, it's faster and easier. So,
I saw a video. I think the man's last name was Lewis. I think he was a 70. He started working out when he was 44, started lifting weights. And I swear to God, if you had just taken his head off, you would have thought he was maybe 30 years old. And it reminded me of many years ago when I was younger. I'd worked out at Gold's Gym, and this older gentleman walked in. He's probably in his 60s. And same situation. He took his shirt off to work out. And if he had just taken his head off, you would have thought he was in his 20s. And it made me look at life and aging differently. There's some lie here because I've seen other people in their 60s that don't look like that. That guy knows something. And Dr. Masley, it sounds like you know a lot. So I really appreciate it. Two more questions for you, sir.
Okay.
As far as supplementing with vitamins, minerals, do you recommend that? Do you recommend that you just get it through your food? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's really difficult to meet all your nutrient needs for food. Most Americans are you could get vitamin D if you go out in the sun for an hour like a bikini, and you live south of Atlanta, Dallas, Santa Barbara. You could get it from the sun, but most people aren't. And you might get skin cancer and your skin will age. So better is to take 2,000 of vitamin D every day. Magnesium, 70% of people are magnesium deficient, which has huge impact on their health, their cardiovascular risk.
Just even depression too, right? Isn't magnesium important for depression?
Yes, probably is. But so are B12 and mixed folates, and fish oil are important for your brain as well. So there's some key 100 things, but you need a good quality multivitamin that's got your minerals and B12 and mixed folates and adequate vitamin D. That's like a no-brainer. And some, you could get fish oil from food, like salmon and sardines, or you could take it in a pill. And magnesium. I mean, to me, those are like the top. It's insane to be deficient in those. There's plenty of other things you could take that theoretically might help you, like curcumin or resveratrol. There's a list. But the essential ones, vitamin D, folate, B vitamins, B12, fish oil, and magnesium. Those are just so important. You can't be low in them.
Wow. Now, Dr. Masley, at the end of our show, we always ask the guests what they consider the holy grail of health to be. So I'm just going to pose that question. What do you, sir, consider to be the holy grail of health?
Real food.
Real food.
Yeah, real food. You got to eat real food that you grow and gather and collect, and it should be delicious. So eat delicious food that your palate loves, good for your mind and soul, and get fit. I'm going to put in two. So food and fitness, put them together, and you get fabulous, fabulous health.
Wonderful. Dr. Masley, I want to thank you for the interview. People that want to know more about you, now you also have this new book coming, the Better Brain Solution. People that tell us give us a little bit on that, and then I'll just ask you how people would get in touch with you.
Well, many of these things apply. So my research has shown that my average person cognitive performance, their advanced brain speed by 25%, the average person. Some people 50 to 100% improvement in their mental sharpness. Who wouldn't want to be more productive and at the same time prevent memory loss? So that's what, when you apply this program to your brain, you get tremendous brain benefit. I'd love to talk to you about that in more detail.
I would love it. I would love to have you come back on the show and we'll go right into that book. That would be awesome. Dr. Masley, how would people get in touch with you that want more information?
Well, they can visit at drmasley.com, drmasley.com. And I've got free gifts to offer them. So I've got lots of information to share with them if they would like. If this information was helpful and they'd like more, then please come visit.
What a great interview, Doc. Thank you so much for being on the show, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Dan.
This episode is sponsored by New Jersey Foot and Ankle Center in Oradell, New Jersey. Remember, when you have a foot problem, you've got a foot doctor in the family. Weekend and evening appointments are available. Call us at 201-261-9445. Once again, that's 201-261-9445. Thanks for listening. Check out the show notes over at drdanspeaks.com. If you're loving the show, head over to iTunes and leave us a review, and we'll catch you next time.